Today's video is a little bit different. I'm actually going to be taking you around parts of my Italian home and showing you just what you can expect to find from properties here in South Italy. Now, I've never done this before, and although I'm not going to be showing you everything because I do believe it's quite healthy to keep some of your life off social media, I will be sharing with you some key characteristics which you can find, generally speaking, in properties here in Italy, as well as some things that took me by surprise coming from London, because there are some differences between the properties here in Italy and the properties that you can find back in the UK, for example. So without further ado, just to give you some context, we live in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment. One of the bathrooms is really what we consider more of a utility room, because although there is a small shower and toilet in there, there is also a really big laundry sink and space for a washing machine. So we tend to treat that room more like a utility room. But we do have a lot of space. We are quite fortunate in that respect. So let's talk about the first key characteristic that I think pretty much most Italian homes have. Now, of course, I'm going to be talking about the floors. Now, we have like tiled floors, and this is a really common characteristic in Italian homes. It's very rare to have an Italian home that comes fitted with carpet, which tends to be the case in the UK. Instead, we have these kind of stone tiles, which really are fantastic in the summer months because boy oh boy, it gets super, super hot here in South Italy especially. Now, of course, you can add rugs for texture, which is what I've done here in my YouTube studio space. But generally speaking, people have these kinds of floors, or wooden floors even, in Italy, and they're very easy to maintain. Just mopping and sweeping them makes a huge difference, or vacuuming them if you want to do that as well. But I must admit, I absolutely love these floors, especially in the summer. The only thing I don't like about them is it depends on the pattern that you have on your tiles, but if you drop something like an earring on a floor like this, it takes me typically hours to find it. That's the only thing I would say about this type of floor. Something else that is really common in Italian homes is the use of dark wood. You will find lots of dark wood incorporated, particularly into older homes. Now, our home even has this, which is actually pretty cool. It is like this vintage door thing that goes across, and it separates our dining room from our kitchen space. So this is like a really, really cool feature, but as you can see, it's wood. So especially in the older homes, you will find that a lot of Italian people will change this if they don't want the whole traditional look, and either paint the wood or replace it with something different. But essentially, this is the look for a lot of traditional homes in Italy, this very dark, heavy wood. Okay, so let's talk about the kitchen. Now, the kitchen in Italy is a really curious thing. It is actually treated as if it were a piece of furniture. So you will find that people, when they move homes, they actually take all of their kitchen suite with them. It's very rare and unusual to find a home in Italy that has a fitted kitchen included at the time of purchase or at the time of renting it. And if you do find a home like that, snap it up, because I promise you it's not a normal thing. Now, what that means is that you're going to move into a home just like we did, which was an empty shell. It just had the fitting points for the water and the gas, and that was it. So we purchased this kitchen. It's pretty vintage. It goes with the whole theme of the house, to be fair. We purchased it secondhand from somebody that we knew because it worked for our needs at the time, and also because our kitchen is quite small and a bit of an odd layout. So it's not likely that we would be able to find a custom built suite that would naturally fit the space that we have available. So this works wonders, and I think we're going to do a bit of a refurb job on it, maybe later in the year, beginning of next year. So I'll film it if we do. But yes, so this is our kitchen area, and it's good for you to know that homes don't come with kitchens here so that you can be prepared. One thing that's really common is to have this kind of runner that goes alongside your kitchen units and by the sink itself. Now, this is especially so to protect the floor from any water or cooking spills. And again, this is another really, really common feature here in Italy. Now, something that we have, which we absolutely love, is this water filter. Now, I drink a lot of water, but Italian people tend to buy a lot of bottled water. And so something like this saves on plastic and is so much better for the environment. These filters last 3 months, and essentially the water that comes out of them, you can fill metal bottles with, Or even you can fill glass bottles and put them in the fridge so that you've always got cold water to hand, which is exactly what we do. But this is something that I never had in the UK, and although I had like a Brita filter, it was nowhere near as good as this because it wasn't connected to the main supply of water. So I absolutely love this, and this is definitely something that I'm so glad we bought for our kitchen. One thing that we have in our haul, which I really love, is this. Now, I actually bought this from a market in Palermo called Camden Market. It wasn't like Camden Market, but I appreciated the effort that they made. And there was this stall selling these beautiful wooden hand-painted pieces. And I love this because this is the flag of Sicily and this is the shape of the island. And I just think it's a really, really beautiful thing to have in our corridor. Now, one thing our home is pretty good for are vintage pieces. Now, apart from the parts which Tina has chewed on, which we need to repair, this vintage cabinet in the entranceway to our home is actually really beautiful, as is this big mirror that we have here. Now, it's really common in Italian homes to have this kind of furniture in the entranceway to kind of leave keys on or decorative pieces. And something that we have on this unit is this lovely cone, which when I left Salerno, my friends bought this ceramic cone as a symbol of good luck for me. It's supposed to be like an incense holder, but I tend to use it just as an ornament, and yeah, I really, really love it. And the next vintage piece that we have in our home is this huge, it is actually crystal, we've checked it, chandelier, which, well, my boyfriend absolutely hates, but I love it. And it's something I need to clean properly because although I've given it like an initial dust, if you clean it properly, it will be a lot more magnificent than what it currently is. But there were a lot of vintage pieces in this home when we first moved in, but there was something about this chandelier that I really, really liked. And I've decided to style our whole living room with like a 1920s vibe. And so this chandelier just works really beautifully with that. Okay, let's talk about windows, because this is a classic characteristic of Italian homes. You will find that the majority of Italian homes have shutters. Now, these can vary. If you have an older home, you might have the really fancy shutters that you close. I'll put a picture here so you can see. Otherwise, the majority of homes have these kinds of shutters. Now, they're usually operated by this pulley cord that you move up and down to move the shutter in place. In my old home in Salerno, they were electric, so it really does depend on the home as to whether this will be manual or electric powered. But essentially, the shutters are a classic sign of an Italian home. They are wonderful in the summer because it's probably one of the only ways to keep the inside of your home fresh whilst the beating sun is shining directly into your rooms. But also you will find it is, and I don't know if this is necessarily such a good thing, a classic indication of when people are on holiday as well, because you will find that homes just close all the shutters down and you know that somebody's not home when you see it in that way. Now, when it comes to the windows here, we also use mosquito screens. Now, you can have them fitted into the window, but because this is a rental property, we have decided not to bother with that. We've just bought the manual ones that you can fit and the portable ones that you can fit into any window. And yeah, it's necessary. In fact, it's essential that you have these Zanzara screens, and we typically have them in place until around November time because sadly the mosquitoes can still be alive at that time of year because it's mild enough for them to want to be. And then of course you can add curtains or nets, as some older people do, just to add something to your window. And as I said, I'm designing this living room to be like a 1920s style, so hence the lovely pattern that we have here on the curtain. Okay, so when we moved into our home, we did find some surprises, including this lovely thing. Now, this is really vintage. This is a carpet beater. And what people would do back in the day, and still some people do to this day, is lean out of their balconies and beat their carpets, or their rugs, I should say, or any kind of blanket or whatever it is. They'd beat it with this to remove the dust and any kind of bits and pieces that might be inside the material. So this is like super vintage. We've used it maybe just a couple of times when we've wanted to, I don't know, clean some blankets or something like this out over the balcony, but yeah, it's definitely something you don't see very often nowadays, particularly like this. This is actually made of like a wicker wood. So yeah, very, very retro. Welcome to the bathroom. So I did say that our home was vintage. This is actually a really pretty place. I'm going to show you the tiles close up. Now, our bathroom has the theme of blue. It's literally like floor to ceiling tiles, because we do have a little space before the ceiling itself, but the tiles are like hand painted. This is super lovely, very, very, very vintage. But there's something about this that I really like. And when the sun hits at this room as well, it's really lovely. And I do love the fact that both the floor and the wall are tiles, but the tiles retain the heat. This is the only thing I would say about them, having them on the wall especially. But they are really, really beautiful. And I do find that in a lot of older Italian homes, they did used to have bathrooms in all one colour. Like even if you look at the lights that we have here, all blue. Everything is blue in this room. So it's like you would find bathrooms that were all one colour or one colour theme. This is definitely a very traditional Italian bathroom. So I hope you've enjoyed a kind of sneak peek into my Italian home and some common characteristics. Of course, there is the bidet in the bathroom. I didn't show you, but we do have the bidet in one of the bathrooms. This is like a classic bathroom staple here in Italy. A couple of other little things to consider is that the washing machine, as I mentioned before, is actually in our second bathroom, which we've considered to be a utility room. It's not really a common thing for washing machines to be in the kitchen suite itself like it is in the UK. So that's something else to be aware of, because that is a big difference. You will find that a lot of Italian homes will have the washing machine in the bathroom itself. So I don't know how you feel about that, but it is a common thing. And what else? Yes, electricity. Now, this can happen a lot in Italian homes where the power supply trips, where if you have too many electrical appliances on at the same time, if you have the air conditioning on and then you have a few other electrical appliances on at the same time, sometimes it can cause the power to trip. But that's something else to consider, that sometimes the supply can trip a bit if you have too many appliances on at the same time, particularly if you use your air conditioning system a lot, because that definitely causes this as well. And yeah, I would say that these are some key things that you need to be aware of. I hope this video has helped. If you have any questions about homes here in Italy, comment below and I'll see if I can answer them or find somebody who can and feature them in a future video. And I'll see you in the next video.